Welcome back, Gregory and Paul show. I'm Gregory.
And I'm Paul.
And we break down the latest in SaaS startups and, of course, AI. There are like three big topics I think we want to discuss this week. And maybe they're even all rolled up into like one topic. Paul, your take was that maybe every week is basically, is this the peak of the AI bubble or is it not the peak of the AI bubble?
That seems like the trending topic in the last few weeks, right? Every single week, one of the tech founders, tech leaders in AI or adjacent just says some ridiculous stuff. And then we're like, it says peak AI.
The media, I mean, no, there is no better narrative in the media than like, look at this amazing thing. When is it going to crash and fall? I remember this was like exactly how they approached the rise of Twitter. Basically, all the press around Twitter was like, this thing is so dumb. Can you believe it's popular? It's 32 characters. It's like they would just go on and on and on and on and on all the time. I feel like it's the same thing with AI.
Exactly, right? Like in every boom, there's people who's trying to call the peak, trying to become like the prophet.
Totally. Okay, so I have just a few things in our doc. Obviously, we need to talk about Stripe and the acquisition of OpenRouter. I think the topic for discussion is, what does this mean for the ecosystem? Is Stripe ultimately trying to build or control the entire financial system around AI? And there's a couple of things that I want to make sure we touch on. So, of course, Dario's response to investor, Gavin Baker.
Gavin Baker. Yeah.
I already said what I think. I mean, I don't think anybody is confused on like where I stand on my thoughts on AI, but we'll get into that. My thoughts around Anthropic in particular. And of course, like we have to examine like what does all this mean for, let's say, the top 4 people in the AI space. You've got OpenAI, Anthropic, you've got perhaps Grok and Google on the other side. But just to recap, Stripe acquired a company called OpenRouter. And like jump in if I get any of this wrong, Paul, but like my understanding of OpenRouter is they are a model routing company. This
Correct.
was the area and startup that I declared as where I thought all the value was going to be. On stage in Seattle Tech Week, someone asked me in the back, like, hey, Gregory, what startup would you start today? And I said, well, since I can't be a professional cyclist, I'm just not that good. I would start a model routing company. I think model routing is where all the value is going to be. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, Stripe acquires one. So model routing means like, hey, I've got my own AI setup. I've got some kind of setup. Like I'm an enterprise. Maybe I have a product in the marketplace. And I don't want to just use OpenAI's model. I don't want to just use Anthropic's model. I want to be able to route it to whatever model I want. And there's 100 models out there? Maybe a couple hundred? Is that correct?
No, maybe like a dozen, I would say. Like,
oh, there's that few. I thought there was, there's different versions of how would you define versions. How would you define it? Yeah.
Yeah. So each different version is like pretty different. So at the top, there's like foundational labs, right? These are like the Google's, OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek.
Right. They have like 5 or 6 flavors of OpenAI.
Each of them has like 5 or 6 different flavors of like GPT-4 or like Fable. So like maybe, but out of all of them combined, people use like a dozen, let's say, actively. 2 dozen.
Okay, that makes sense. So there are like tons of, there's a bazillion flavors out there, but the average team is like, let's route to 12 of these.
Yeah. Like at any given time, maybe like there's a dozen different actively used models that gets all the traffic.
Yeah. And so obviously you've got your product and then you route it to the given model depending on the task. Some are better than others. Some are cheaper than others. Some are like way cheaper than others. And on top of this, which is what I hadn't thought actually deeply about, you shared with me, it was like, not only is it going to the model, but you can actually route it to different infra providers. So there's actually like...
That's correct.
Data center people. I don't know exactly what we would call these entities. They're people that have a bunch of computers and they're running a bunch of models. I guess like they're not running Anthropic and OpenAI.
Yeah, they're not correct.
Right?
Yeah. So like usually these third parties are running open source models. So these models are
only open source.
Correct. These are the models that comes out of China or like Meta's open source models, right? So your choices really are like open source models or OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini models.
Yeah. So okay, so I think we've explained it, right? So you got your startup, you've got your legal AI tool out there with a bunch of lawyers and they're all typing away at it. And you're just like automating like to determine what model to go and kind of manage the prices. Cause if you send everything to Anthropic, you're going to go bankrupt in about a week. And I guess like this is giant business. Like what did they pay for OpenRouter? 8 billion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
7.4 or something around there.
It's a big business. And the reason that I like identify this as a key area is that I remember in the mobile boom where a similar type of dynamic emerged with advertising. So there was like independent ad networks and Google bought a mobile ad network and the developers were out there with their apps and they figured out that like, hey, if I aggregate a bunch of these ad networks together, I can maximize my revenue and give the ad placement to the person that'll pay me the most. So doing the same idea, but in reverse, trying to maximize the amount of money that they made. And these aggregators emerged that were called mediation layers, very similar to like these routing layers. And they did exactly the same thing. They took a developer's app and they routed it to the correct ad product, ad network, whatever it is that maximized the value. And this became like actually a big business. And I saw this emerging in AI. And the reason I got really excited about it was because ultimately this technology becomes the gatekeeper. So if OpenRouter is successful, they theoretically can actually disintermediate an OpenAI or an Anthropic because they actually control the supply and the access to the market. Did I get that right, Paul?
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it. So like what I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is twofold, right? Like what do these token providers, these are the companies that's supplying the token where they own GPUs, how do they think about this acquisition? I'm not like
Interesting. So the
right, like
infra providers, the third-party data centers, token providers.
exactly, yeah. So like
I don't know.
OpenRouter famously said they don't do token markup. They just charge a 5% fee on every single transaction. So like you can factor in credit card processing fee. And also they take like a 2%
So it's
take
the same
on top
as
of
the
it.
Stripe business model.
Exactly,
It's just
yeah.
a
It's
transaction
exactly
fee.
is
Yeah.
correct. It's just a transaction fee. And then because AI token is a global phenomenon, not a lot of places in the world has credit cards. So like OpenRouter facilitates AI usage because they do stable coin as well. So you can buy AI inference with USDC, and Stripe is moving towards the stablecoin industry as well. So like this creates an entire new economy built on stablecoin away from credit cards.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So
okay, let me see.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
There's a lot to unpack here. So let me see if I can summarize all. It's
Yeah.
complicated.
Summarize
Okay.
everything.
Yeah. For people. So like, and because like, I think this is really key to understand because I think it will in some ways determine like how the entire market plays out.
Yeah,
So
this
you've
this is
got,
a brand new economy now, right? Like AI
yeah.
economy is now a thing.
Yeah, and it's the convergence of like a lot of ideas that people experimented with in crypto that are actually going to be put into place and become, I think, extremely useful in the AI space. All right. So you've got like models out there and you've got data centers out there in the like in the cloud, in the ecosystem. And there's different
Yeah,
flavors of
sure.
like models. And you can go directly to OpenAI, you go directly to Anthropic, or you can even go to like AWS and get different models. You can go to other companies and get models. You can access
Yeah,
AI through all of these methods, right?
yeah,
And on
yeah.
top of that, there's companies like OpenRouter that are managing all this traffic and helping route it to the right place. And then what I don't understand, or actually my question for you is like, is the token piece. So the token is how like you as the developer, you make
hmm
this purchase in order to access AI. Are they facilitating the token sales from the different providers? They don't have their own token.
They don't have their own token, correct? So
Right.
they
Okay.
literally just route your request to a token provider,
To the
like a first.
provider. So the like whatever model you want to use at whatever provider has a token that you have to purchase in order to use that. Like you got to get a ticket to get on the ride. You go to the amusement park. You're
Yeah,
like, I like that roller coaster. Give me the ticket for that one. Boom,
yeah,
I'm on that ride. Right. Okay. So actually, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's like there's a lot of players, but ultimately it's very simple. It's like I want to use this model, therefore I need tokens, and each model has its own token. Therefore, on your developer end, your interface, your product, you need to have a way to like facilitate all these token
yeah,
purchases. So
exactly.
you
Yeah,
can see why someone like Stripe would look at this and go, holy, wait a minute. Like this looks a lot like our business. Like we're into just kind of facilitating credit card transactions. We're really good at it. We make
yeah,
a bundle Why don't we buy this? And we see this as being potentially the core business to AI, and
Yeah.
that if
Correct.
you
Correct.
if you control access, you'll control AI essentially. So okay. Okay, so I think we've summarized that. Now, what's important to understand is like, how did this play out in mobile? Because I know what happened. What happened was you had these individual companies that emerged that were doing the routing piece, right? And then the same thing happened where people saw like these things are actually really valuable. They started buying them, right?
Hold up.
And
What
so
exactly were they routing?
ad networks,
Ad
same
networks.
idea.
Okay. Gotcha.
They're
Yeah.
routing
Yeah.
it was just an routing ad, but it was the same exact concept. So what happened, because they controlled the gateway and the access. And that's what all of the big players saw was like, in fact, in very early days, there were actually a bunch of lawsuits and they sued an open source version. They're like little kids drinking Joe Cola all night, just made this thing for fun. Literally, they got sued. They're like, what, whatever. And then they just like sold it to Google for pennies. So there was like people that recognized the value here. And they saw very quickly that like, if you're the biggest ad network, you're just like, if you're the biggest model provider, you can get disintermediated. Like all of a sudden someone is going to come along and say like, yeah, I don't want to buy direct from you anymore. I'm going to install this OpenRouter stuff. I'm going to like make you go through OpenRouter, right? And so that actually started to happen. And then Google figured out like, oh, okay, we'll just put all this technology into our kit from Google Ads. So if you want to run Google Ads in your app, you can install our Google kit, our Google SDK, and then you could put whatever other crappy stuff you want in there, go ahead, but Google is also in there. And like in a lot of ways, that's how they maintained control over a big portion of the market. So my suspicion is the same thing will happen here. You've got a giant third-party player that got acquired by like what I would call another third party. So Stripe does not offer models. They're not an AI company. They're a third-party entity separate from the model ecosystem. So very quickly, the model people are going to like release their own routers. Like if I was OpenAI or Anthropic, I would create one and say like, guess what? You can route to all my stuff and you can route to other stuff too. Like it's very obvious. I think they'll do it. Anthropic might
Yeah.
resist this. Like there's clearly some like philosophical differences, but I think eventually they'll have to do something like this, offer people a way to get low cost access to other models. And I think that's how the space will play out. And the last piece, and then I'll shut
I
up.
see.
Last piece I want to say is like, it will remain a fantastic business. I think the routing people and selling these tokens and facilitating all this stuff is going to be a moneymaker. I think a lot of the ideas that people experimented with in the crypto days will be translated and transferred to this market. It's very similar. I just think that like we probably don't need the blockchain complexity of it all, but you do need all these like private networks with tokens that are getting transferred, and they like the way it all works is very similar.
Do you
Sorry.
think there's space for like, okay, do you think there would be a second player that's going to be bigger than OpenRouter? Because right now OpenRouter is the biggest one. There's companies like Ramp,
Great
Vercel
question.
got their second. You maybe predict like Google might launch one.
If I was Google, like I mean, like I would be shocked if Google didn't have one that they're already working on. Would be completely like blown away. I would hope that OpenAI had this. OpenAI seems distracted. They've got a lot of things going on, but OpenAI should be doing this. My guess is Anthropic is the one to like to resist it, to be like, we don't really want to do this. We've got other models. Maybe we just keep people on our ecosystem. It's not a ridiculous way to play it. And they're really playing up the security and privacy. And there's a bunch of things that they don't want that exist in a like really open ecosystem. So I think they'll all go down different paths. Will there be the question about like, could someone else emerge as an even larger player? This market, I think, is going to be so big that it's possible.
Yeah.
Like it goes back to original, is this the peak or not? It's like, my mind is blown every day by AI. Like I cannot believe the things that I see it doing. We've far surpassed some of my like expectations. Like I thought it'd go far. That'd be really cool. But I thought some of the things might be a lot more difficult than have proven to be. Like I can't believe it actually. So I become a lot more optimistic perhaps than I was. I think it's gonna, I don't know, in some ways go the distance. I think a lot of the more, I'll try to think of the right way to word this. I think a lot of the very forward thinking, very optimistic views of AI might end up being proven true. That would be the right way to frame it, I think.
Examples? Any immediate examples? Like how it will,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the idea that like a lot of SaaS is going to go away and it's going to be
yeah.
completely subsumed by AI. I'm starting to see this now all the time. The things I used to use other tools for, I just use AI for it. And that list is starting to like grow really dramatically. And it's early and like I'm nerdy and I'm doing it in to some degree convoluted way perhaps, but like way beyond anything I thought it could do.
I would agree with that. If AI figures out collaboration, I think like that would kill a lot of SaaS.
Yeah, if you could have like shared accounts and you can collaborate with people and like it's got project like
Yeah.
I'm with you. I totally
So
understand.
like we didn't put this in the doc, but Dreamforce just happened and Slack released a coding agent, a collaborative coding agent directly inside of Slack. I thought that's
Right? It's
really cool.
yeah, you could see it's all converging, right? Like my Claude harness, my chat room, my Slack, like it's gonna be one tool that starts to do a lot of this stuff. Like if you and I had Slack and we had the model in there and we had like I could see like one interface. There's also like a lot of indie SaaS stuff I used to use and now I don't need it anymore. So I'll give you a very clear example. I had an MP4, I think. It wasn't MP3. It was an audio file. It wasn't. It was an audio file. I was trying to convert it to video because I wanted to post it on Twitter. You can't post audio; you can only post video. So I'm like doing searches, and I find all these like old convoluted SaaS tools that are hard to use, and then I just go like, let me drop this in ChatGPT and see what it does. ChatGPT just converted it. I was like, what? This used to be something that was like not easy to do, and it just did exactly what I wanted. I was quite blown away. So it just unlocked a whole new use case for me that I had never considered. Like use AI to just change file formats and adjust files in a way that I wasn't doing, and it did it
I
flawlessly.
Yeah,
I
micro
was
SaaS is
shocked.
basically like going away because of the capability of AI. I think that's true. I think that's very, very true.
Yeah,
As
yeah. Here's
intelligence gets
actually there's a giant list of stuff like that. I used to use tools that would like knock out the background or convert things from PDF to PNG. There was all kinds of stuff. I don't use any of them.
Yeah, yeah. So I do think there is room for more routers because right now,
Yeah.
if you go on to OpenRouter, it's not curated. Like it tells you what the best models are based on benchmarks, but I don't think consumers care about this at all. Like they don't want full 100 choices. They just want you to tell them what's the cheapest, what's the fastest, and what gets me from point A to point B. So like if a curated list of router comes out and cracks the consumer code, I think that's where all the
You think it'd
opportunities
be
are.
that's a I hadn't thought about that. You think like some type of like router company could put like a UI on it and release an app and say like I would market it as like a low cost AI tool. It's like, hey, here, drop this thing in and we just route it to the right model for you and make it like really cheap.
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like, right? Basically, you're selling
Hmm.
intelligence. So it can't just be like a AI wrapper, a chat app. It has to be like a router that allows people to build on top of it.
So it's more like a developer tool or something. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a developer tool, right? Like I don't want to say that it's a developer tool. Because then if it's a developer tool, we would just use OpenRouter. It has to be somewhere that's like prosumer, but not a GPT wrapper. Not
I was waiting
a
for that. I was waiting for that word. It's like the lovable version. Like you can throw it in there and like,
Exactly. But like the lovable is still scope to websites, right? But like
uh-huh.
I would like something like a Siri that actually works. That if you can kind of like pick flavors of the models, whether if it's like more certain characteristics or faster or a cheaper, whatever that looks like.
You know, it's interesting. Like, I mean, I was always fairly optimistic, but I have become so optimistic recently. Like, that's why I keep like poking myself. Like, is it the peak? Am I just experiencing the euphoria of the peak? But I keep finding things that it does. Like, and for me, that's where my enthusiasm, and my excitement keeps coming from. Is like I'm finding ways to do really productive, really interesting things, and I keep hearing from other people like what they're doing. And that's what really inspired me was like, I guess like maybe in the beginning, I'd heard a lot of chatter where people are like vibe coding stuff and I couldn't figure out like exactly what they're doing. And then I would hear maybe some of the use cases. Okay. Around the Claudebot stuff. Everyone I talked to, I was like, this isn't really like a great use case for me. Like, I understand you're excited about it, but I'm not going to put the effort and energy to do that. They all
Yeah.
were like research or just something that I didn't really need. Then very recently, I started talking to people and I found out like the kind of things that they were doing and I was like floored. So I went to an event during Seattle Tech Week and I spoke with a guy who was like the head of design for a startup. He was an awesome guy. And he basically told me like, he's like, dude, I've got AI doing all of the design now. And it's perfect. Perfect. He's like, everything, every deck, everything. I was like floored. And then I started experimenting and I was like when he explained like some of the techniques, I started experimenting and I was like blown away. So that for me is a real use case. Like, can we make cool decks and design and not have to go and like buy a template or get a designer? And like, I'm basically there. Like, I'm able to do incredible stuff with it. The other thing, I guess I'll just go on the list. I have a list of like 10 things. I finally got the MCP server for Beehive setup and they opened access to I don't know if it's the full tool, but you can access a lot of features now. And so I did something recently like, okay, I want to update the description of my newsletter. And I asked ChatGPT, tell me all the places that this description is located in, because there's like a bunch of them. It found them all. And not only did it find them all, but it gave me the link to directly go and edit it. So I literally had this chat response that comes up and it's like, here's all the links. And I just clicked on them and I updated all the descriptions. It's the kind of thing like I would waste sometimes 30 minutes like clicking around some UI, trying to find places to make updates. I spent an hour on this trying to update my credit card on X. Like it's different for every, like there's all kinds of like permutations of the X interface. I swear to God, like it's not surfaced in mine for some reason. I could not find how to edit the credit card. And I eventually got Grok to give me a direct link to it. That was the only way I was able to update my credit cards. So it's a good example of like this frustration they go through constantly. And now I'm able to have like AI help solve it for me. So it's converting audio to video. It's doing excellent, high quality design. It's accessing my software and helping me navigate through UI challenges. I mean, like the list of things, and I have like a list of 5 other things I'm doing with it. Mind blown.
Yeah, I'm experiencing this kind of like myself as well. But the difference is that I think judgment comes into play a lot more here. Basically, like if you're doing design work, you have to know when to keep going and when to stop. It's hard to say if people using AI knows when that is. So like you still need people's expertise and you need like tools to guide you. And I don't know if
I
AI is
agree.
the right. I don't know if AI is the right.
Dude, I agree. So it's so funny you brought that up. So like conversation with that designer, I said, dude, you should just start like an AI first design firm. I was like, they still need you. They might not need a giant team of designers like we used to have, but they need you to come in, like set it all up and train everybody and maybe make some docs and make a couple of Loom videos. And they can give you a call once a week when like something breaks or they can't figure something out. Like they're still going to need expertise. It's just all going to change in like the delivery and the way the tools get used and how people implement the stuff. I want to move on now to the Dario thing. I think we should at least
Let's
cover
talk
that.
about it.
Yeah. Do you wanna kick this
Yeah,
one
let me
off?
pull it up. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So like this whole entire thing kind of came out of a all-in podcast where an investor, what's his name, Gavin?
Gavin
I
Baker,
can't.
yeah.
Gavin Baker, yeah. Essentially like said a bunch of stuff about Dario and his push into regulation for foundational AI companies, right? Gavin basically accused or said, of course, somebody like Dario wants regulation for foundational models because regulation means regulatory capture, means consolidated power. So basically accused Dario and Anthropic that introducing more regulation or getting the government to regulate their competitors and themselves, they are actually kind of going about a roundabout way to consolidate more power, which I absolutely see his point in. And then Dario came out with this, like what, a tweet storm? I wouldn't say a tweet storm, but two tweets kind of going back and forth, trying to communicate why his perspective, I would say. Do you want me to like keep going and just talk about some of his talking points?
I think yeah, keep going. You're doing good. I think I agree. I think you've summarized it correctly. I have thoughts.
Yeah, so like of course he pushes back on like the AI regulation stance, right? Like he disagrees that the regulation equals power concentration. Fine. And then the way that I think he communicated very well because
I agree
if
that with that. Yeah.
he
He's
did
not stupid.
Yeah. This was like, I can't remember if it's just like chief like engineer or chief AI officer or something, already came out with a statement saying, "Hey, like here's are some internal comms where Dario communicates like his actual thoughts. It's never about power. It's actually about like making sure the mission aligns with actual the AI's capabilities." So like I think he like defended his position really well.
Do you
I think
agree with it though? Yeah.
I don't know if I would say I would agree with him. I just think that he defended his position really well, right? Like he pointed out a whole bunch of stuff about regulations, about the way that the public needs to kind of weigh all of the risks around AI, and the only way to do that is comes with regulation. So like uh, he kind of like refocused what the public spheres are with what his proposed solution, which is regulatory capture. Nobody else has proposed a better solution yet. So like I'll kind of leave it as that. If Gavin
Yeah.
Baker wants to push back and propose a better solution, I'm all ear about it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. He is like a public relations jujitsu master.
That's it exactly it.
Like
Yep.
I agree. Like this is, I'm sure he had Claude's help, but this is clearly him, and he's a really bright guy, obviously, and he did an excellent job. I don't agree with it, but I think he did a really good job at like refuting a lot of the claims. I thought it was cool that he didn't post it as a post law on X. I love that Jason just comments like, "Come on the pod, come on, come on podcast." So Jason. It's so funny. And I think the way you define, like, he did a really good job at addressing this, and he kind of like twists everything around like a jujitsu master. I don't agree. I think I did think it was cool that he seemed to actually back away from the FAA.
FDA.
Well, he called it FAA, Federal Aviation Administration
Yeah.
for AI. And he
That's right.
basically
Yeah.
said, I also like Demis from Google, who proposed a much more like self-regulatory approach that's like less onerous than the FAA. He actually said this thing like, hey, I'm open to that too. That was interesting. I actually really like that because I'm not a fan of the FAA one. So I thought that was my opinion, very cool. Like I'm glad that he kind of like he seems to be more open, at least in this post. He says more open to like a variety of approaches. It isn't pushing as hard for the regulatory framework that he wants. Now, I think,
Correct.
hold
Correct.
on, hold on. I think he's doing that because he has lost. He has lost the battle. Like,
You think so? Oh,
yeah.
which battle did he lose? Did he
So
lose the
okay, I don't work in the federal government. All I can go on is by the information I have, right? But according to what David Sachs is saying, that Dario is pushing for like basically like communist level control over all of AI with the Biden administration and almost got it. Like where they would be like the only one. They lost that. They didn't get that. Demis has come out. Demis is a smart guy. Demis is highly respected in the AI community. Demis has an alternate proposal that's gained a lot of traction. And now that basically Anthropic seems to perhaps have lost the regulatory capture game, he's changing his tune and saying like, oh, no. I also agree with this other version. I think he's just kind of like, it's just really good PR. Like I said, he's a jujitsu master. He's like, oh, they got me in a headlock. And then he gets out of the headlock and he's like, now he's like, standing tall again. But the thing that I took issue with and that I posted was that I did not agree at all with his statement. And I want to be very clear that when it comes to AI and like the benefits and the challenges, that he has been equally balanced. That was a term that he used. And I think that is the most
yeah.
ridiculous thing for him to say. It is
Equally,
not,
why?
because it's just ridiculous. He's been pushing the like negative doom view really hard and using his like credibility to back it up. And like it's not like what Steve Jobs ever did when it came to the iPhone. Steve Jobs didn't get up on stage and say like, this thing's going to completely destroy human connection. It's going to ruin society. They're going to invent Instagram and it's going to be horrible for teenagers. Like he didn't say any of that. He said like it's an excellent invention that's going to be fantastic and it's going to be great, and it's up to like people to manage it themselves. Like he left it up to personal responsibility, right? Dario said the opposite. He has just said like he has been very clear at dreaming up every catastrophic use case or scenario possible, fanning the flames with the media that like these far-reaching things might happen. There's always negative scenarios if you spend a lot of time thinking about it, whether they're automobiles or homes, like all kinds of bad things can happen, but you don't put a lot of effort into it. He has constantly put a ton of effort into it. And then his sales pitch has been, but don't worry, I have the better version that's safe.
I see your argument, right? Like I see your argument where Steve Jobs always being optimistic, whether it's cell phone, of whether it's the mobile or the Macintosh. But
Well, I would also, I also, sorry, I also think that like Ford didn't do this. Car companies don't do this. Like
okay, so
pharmaceutical like pharmaceutical
I
companies
know.
will say like, oh, if you take the whole bottle, you might die. If you
So
like a pharmaceutical company could go into crazy detail about all the negative outcomes if you misuse their
yes,
product, right?
but I have a unique insight into this.
Okay, I'm ready.
For all of those companies that you listed, when the product first launched, it wasn't accessible to the day-to-day users. For example, when the Macintosh launched, the people who got it were the hobbyists because they were really expensive and businesses. And even like when the iPhone launched, it was like what, $1,000. The general public did not immediately jump
Kids
on.
lined up in front of the Apple store in San Francisco and
That's
slept on the street to get one.
San Francisco. So like it's still a very minority of people, right? AI adoption curve, I think, is different. Like literally anyone across the world with $5 to spend could put it into AI intelligence and get something out. So like I think the adoption curve looks very, very different.
That would definitely be like Dario's argument. That was
Yeah.
exactly what his response would be to like my statement that like this time it's different, this product is different, and like
Yeah. I see his point, right? Like basically the price of AI or intelligence has literally collapsed a ton. And with open source coming online, it's going to get cheaper and cheaper. And people across the world will be using this.
okay, so then so the final piece to all of this,
Yeah.
at least they like, and I'll be clear, this is my opinion. Like I stopped using, and I was so I want to preface this correctly. Like I was thinking last night because I knew we would get to this discussion, and I was thinking, and someone asked me on Twitter recently, like, "Are you using Claude?" And what I said was like, actually, I stopped using it when they ran into all those issues with the Pentagon, and this articulates my challenge with like Dario and his perspective. Maybe that's the best way to frame it, like his personal perspective on this stuff.
Yeah.
So what he said was that he disagreed with like the legal agreement from the Pentagon, and the legal agreement of the Pentagon that everyone else signed said they could use AI for all legal uses. And everyone else agreed to that. Dario said, that's not good enough for me. There are things above all legal uses that I am going to be the moral decider. And that is a piece that I don't like about Anthropic and why I stopped working with them. And I would argue that I've been proven correct. Like recently, people have been getting all these warnings about like poor language, or they're doing things that Claude doesn't like them to
Yeah.
do, and they're
Fable has
getting blocked
correct.
from it. It's just totally ridiculous. And I feel really strongly about this because that is not the world I want to live in. I don't want a tool on my computer that polices my language and tells me it doesn't like what I'm doing. Maybe what I'm doing is okay. It just doesn't like it, right? Like I don't accept that at all. And I find that part like really frustrating. And I know that other people agree with me. And so ultimately, it might even be true that AI is different technology. It is, I don't know if it's the same as a nuclear bomb, but it's a big deal. And
It is
that
a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, and then maybe it needs to be regulated. But I don't like the idea that like Dario is the decider. He is the moral authority. He is the Pope of AI, and he knows everything. That part I'm not okay with.
You don't like him and Anthropic or even like a consortium of AI companies. Would you trust the government?
Great. Okay, great question, right? So like, I like the Demis idea. I do believe in regulation. Like I'm not
Yeah.
crazy.
Because like
I just don't think one person is not a good enough for me.
okay, of course, I do agree with that, right? Like, it's like the internet. Technically, you can do whatever you want on the internet, but like, there are edge cases where if you do the thing on the internet, government will come knocking on your doors.
Dude, I totally I have I used this example with you? We got into an argument one time at some nerdy startup I was at, and we had this anonymous bulletin board to like post things for all hands.
Sure.
And some nerd goes, "It's not really anonymous." and it wasn't me who said this. It was this other guy who I love. He goes, can the federal government detect if you make a bomb threat on this bulletin board? He goes, I think they can. Is it anonymous for our purposes? I absolutely can promise you it is anonymous enough for what we're doing here. I thought it was like the greatest,
Totally.
nerdiest answer of all time. So I agree with you 100%. Like, can the like NSA go into the internet and figure out? Yeah, I hope they can, right? But like the NSA is not giving me messages like, Curry, stop like saying rude stuff on ChatGPT. Like, I don't want that.
Of course. Well, like, I mean, sure. Right. So, okay. So, like, basically, we're agreeing on, okay, maybe Dario's not the right person to dictate what you can or cannot.
It's for me, it's not about Dario. It's the idea that there's one person or there's like this group of people at Anthropic who know better.
But how is that any different from the government, though? It's just the government is a group of people. It's exactly the same thing.
Great question. So this okay. In theory, they are responsible to elected officials. That's the official answer in a democracy is like we vote and the rules. We see this actually. The rules change depending on what administration is in charge
over a period of time. Yes, correct.
It's an imperfect system, but like I don't like the idea that like a corporation with a king is the one that has so much control over like what people do, what people say, what people think.
But don't you think like, I know we're almost at time, but like, don't you think
this is good?
In a real true capitalistic society, we will vote with our wallets. So if you don't like Dario and what he's been doing with AI and you don't involve the government, stop using his model.
So I agree that too, but he's correct. And so this is great. It ties all back in because what Gavin was saying is like, that's not their strategy. What their strategy was to try to like capture the regulatory framework around AI and force everyone to use their system, ban open source tools.
Right.
And then they are the king and can decide what people are doing and you don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah. So like, okay. So that's where we'll go back to the routing. Right.
Yeah, it ties right back in. Yeah.
That's like, that's like the records label saying, well, you can't download MP3s on the internet because that's like against it's IP laws. But then people still distribute MP3s on the internet because
it's different because like that's their copyrighted material and you could theoretically distribute a non-copyrighted MP3 legally that way.
Sure. Well, what I'm trying to say is like you're gonna have the regulated models. You're gonna have the regulated models that goes through these like open routers or official routers. Absolutely, I see a future where there's going to be like these routers where they route to compute where it's like outside of government regulation.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I see what you're saying. It's very similar to the file sharing ecosystem.
Yeah.
There were like, and then so okay. I actually think this is exactly the
there's going to be
parallel.
Intelligence outside of regulation, right? Like so. What he's going to do is he's going to capture, he's going to regulatory capture like a large part of the token or intelligence economy. Fine. Like if that goes ahead, fine. But then like if the demand's there, people are just going to figure it out. Like they're going to create underground routers.
So the file sharing system is really interesting because ultimately a free market solution won, which was Steve Jobs. And he was the only one who's able to get all the record labels to agree. And so he got them all to agree and they all were in iTunes. And iTunes, he created like a one-stop shop that had most of the content. And so people stopped file sharing because it just had everything that you wanted in one place. So when it was all balkanized around all these different places, it wasn't great for consumers. So like a market solution did eventually emerge that provided a great option.
It's a new distribution way to distribute the same content again, right? Like that's what Jobs created. So like,
so we'll see how it's all. I have no idea how it's going to play out. I think it's like a fascinating.
Correct.
It's okay. I don't have to agree with everything Dario says. I still think he's a really bright guy and like he's doing some cool stuff. So it's okay.
Also, Ramp just came out with their router as well, right? Like this is full circle back. Basically, they're attacking this like model routing from two separate angles. Stripe is going through like the developer grassroots level, and then Ramp is tackling it from the top down. So like they're selling to CFOs. CFO then dictates which model or router to use. So like the regulatory capture might only affect the enterprise usage. Like,
Maybe.
because like
Yeah.
for consumers, it's like, oh, what do all of the routers that like the government can't enforce on? Maybe it's only just like the big inference
Yeah,
labs.
there's a strong argument to be made that like Anthropic is doing what Steve Jobs did for B2B. So like there's a belief perhaps out there that like Anthropic is safe to use if you're like a large conservative business. Like
Exactly.
I don't yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't I don't like I said like I don't like they've got their point of view and I don't complete I guess the biggest piece I don't like is like the idea that there would be regulatory capture, they would ban all the open source models and theirs would be the only one. I really don't like that. I'm
I don't
totally
think that's
for the
yeah.
idea.
I don't think that's it. That's
Totally for
possible.
like there's an Anthropic version. It's different than the other versions. It's got more guardrails and other stuff. They don't agree with the Pentagon. That's fine too. Like that's okay. Like they don't have to,
Yeah.
you know. And so I think that covers it.
All right. Shall we end it here?
Yeah, we're good, man. That was fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right.
All right.
See you guys next week.
Bye bye.
Done.
That was good.